to my channel. My name is 𝐊𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. If this is the first time you are tuning into my channel, welcome. I am here to support, uplift, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of you are meant to be. So let me know where you're tuning in from. I've been busy. I've been underneath all this heavy energy. I see Mish, Lana, my biggest resistance is getting your car registered, and you had to do it today. Yeah, yearly property taxes when you own a car. Yeah, isn't that crazy? You already paid for it. Yeah, time to be gentle with yourself. Exactly. So, whatever you're feeling is revealing what is still needing to be healed, right? In my last video, if you hadn't seen it already, received this intuitive hit that, you know, healing, I don't think it's what we have made it out to be. Healing isn't fixing something, because nothing's broken. Nothing's wrong with you. Healing is from the perspective of acknowledging. It's revealing what is still being held on to and not being allowed to come to completion, to allow the energy to continue to move. Because every experience we have, and it could be one extreme or the other, that's how we swing on that pendulum of life. We are going from one side to the other. This is a roller coaster ride. Didn't you notice? Didn't you get the memo? Life is a game, and it's got peaks and it's got really low dips. And when you get on the roller coaster, hold on tight, because you never know where you're going to end up. That's what the mind will do to you. Because we will tend to attach to what feels really, really good. And although we say we push it away and we resist what feels really, really bad, the reality is, even in doing that, you're holding on to it. But how attentive are we to ourselves? How responsive or reactive are we to those things that when something arises, we want to point a finger out, forgetting we got three pointing back at us. That's a trigger happy hand. That's got a trigger finger. And let me tell you, wherever you're pointing it, you better watch out, because you got three fingers pointing back. The past, the present, and the future. You point out and you go to blame or shame anybody else. Essentially what we're doing is playing the boomerang effect. Because we project upon people what it is that's really going on within us. So when you see someone and you want to say, you're doing this to me, number one, you're doing it to yourself. You're allowing it, or it wouldn't be happening. And this is life, right? I'm speaking from my personal experience. That's the only thing I know. So sometime in your past, you've probably been that person. You might not want people to know it. You might not want to own it. But if you don't own it, it owns you, and therefore it continues to repeat in your life as lessons, as these contrasts. Because when you notice something's out of balance, it's just showing you what is off. When you're not in balance, that's a contrast. When you're not in alignment, you're on the pendulum swinging. And the extremes show up in contrast in life. The duality, the polarity. Polarity, right? Polarizes. It basically pushes one thing one way, pushes it the other way. Neutrality is the middle game here, people. Neutrality shows you are in balance, because neither polarity can exist without the other. But you don't notice them when you're in neutrality. You don't notice them when you're balanced. You only notice them when you're out of balance. And that's part of the learning in this life experience that we have, is to recognize where it is arising within you, what it is within you that sees it, and why. Why would you see something out of balance if it wasn't something in you that was imbalanced? So it's really just taking stock of what's going on within you and how it's showing up outside of you. So again, three fingers. When you're pointing a finger at someone, first off, be ready, because it ricochets. What goes out comes right back in. And what is in is reflected out. So we're always playing this dance with life. You got the past, the present, and the future. It may have happened in your past. It might be happening in your present. It could potentially happen in your future, that whatever you accuse someone else of, you yourself have done. You know, people always talk about God's going to be the last judge. But we're constantly judging. We're constantly being judged. We're comparing. Comparing is a form of judgment, people. It's the comparing yourself to another, looking at a situation based on their belief system and how you feel or think or believe it should be, when in reality, you have no idea. You're just assuming based on conditioning and programming. And all of us are doing it. All of us are guilty of it. But then there's nothing to be ashamed of because you're navigating like we all are. So it's not it's not the point of like pointing a finger and saying it's your fault. When you do that, those three fingers are also saying you're playing the victim because you're pointing out your power. Jupiter. Expansion. Wait a minute, yeah? Jupiter finger is all about expansion. Do you ever notice in a lot of movies with magic, they use the pointer finger because that's Jupiter. Pointing has power. It's expansive. Whatever you point to also points your focus, attention. Where attention goes, energy flows, and it grows. And so there's a lot of things in the world going on, and you can say this and you can say that, but you know, the more attention you give it, the more it's growing. You're feeding it. You're giving your energy away. You're giving your power away to it. And it's not really happening in the moment. Most of the times it's something you're hearing about after the fact in the form of news, as in the form of social media. Like we're really wrapped up in this whole, oh, hey, Julia, 2:35 a.m. in Portugal. God bless you. See, the Amrit Vela is like waking us up at these crazy hours because there's messages meant for us to receive and to give. So everything that's going on around us is a reflection of us. And most people, and I was talking to my sister about this earlier, about how it's so much easier for us to play the victim, to say things are being done to us or that the world's a horrible place, when in reality it's just as easy to see all the blessings and the beauty within the world around us. It's just, what are you looking for? What are you placing your eyes and your attention and your focus and your energy upon? If you take yourself out of this moment, you're letting the mind hijack you again. We're talking about the 𝐕𝐞𝐿𝐴. We're talking about the mind virus. We're talking about the battle of the minds, because that's what's going on right now. So many people seek out others to give them answers, to go without. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because, you know, we have to go out and then we have to go back in. So you can amass all the information in the world you want. You can collect. You can be a collector, right? A hoarder of information. You can have all this knowledge, but then you have to actually apply it. You actually have to experience it firsthand, not just regurgitate it. You have to integrate it, because it doesn't become wisdom and it does not become your knowledge, your gnosis, until it becomes a part of you through your personal experience. Which is why it's so important that when you speak, you're not just repeat. You know, your words aren't on repeat. You want to feed out what is processed through you, your temple being, because you are a soul having a human being experience. So whatever goes, you know, first in, first out. Here we go, computer work again, right? We take in data through our 5 senses. So all the data we amass has to go through our system and has to be filtered. And most of the times it's being filtered through our BS, our belief system. And the question is, how much of that belief system is really yours that wasn't already programmed into you, that you're still trying to unlearn at the same time? So we can take in all this new information, and then we have to filter it out, sift through, organize, you know, all this craziness to acknowledge, I got an upgrade because that belief system no longer exists and it doesn't serve me and it doesn't support me. Oh, this came in and it aligns. It feels right in my body. Because the feeling is revealing what needs healing, acceptance, allowance, appreciation. Again, the energy that was stuck gets agitated and triggered so that it can move out. So when things like bring your shit to the surface, essentially, that's actually an opportunity to let go of some of the baggage. So I like to say, whatever triggers you is your work to do. Because triggers are charges. They are unresolved, unmet childhood needs. They are old traumas coming up to surface to serve you in your purpose, to release them so that you can be free and liberated from them, because you were never meant to hold on to them. So remember what I was saying about how we always either want to hold on to the stuff that's so good, and then we want to reject the stuff that isn't, that doesn't feel so good. It's the same energy. You're clinging, even if you're pushing it away. You're attached to it. Your resistance is your persistence, is your contention that creates all the physical tension. So it's the same energy, the push and the pull, because it's energy. And the energy doesn't see it as the good or the bad. The energy just says, oh, you're giving me attention. Oh, you're giving me attention by not giving me attention. You know, what you think you can suppress will eventually express, whether through yourself or through another person, because we attract where we're at, don't we? How many times have you felt like you wanted to say Murphy's law? Murphy's a bunch of crap, because that's just another scapegoat. So easy to say it's because, you know, when this happens, that happens. You know, there's so many old sayings that because we kept saying them, we reinforce them. And it doesn't make them true, just like our belief systems and all these programs and the rules, the righteousness rules, the, you know, like nothing comes without hard work, and, you know, everything takes suffering, and you can just spew out all sorts of junk, but it's mindless. And we want to be mindful. We want to be attentive to what is going through our minds, which is why meditation is so important. And we want to slow down. We want to get in touch with the breath. How in alignment are we? Something I wrote down the other day, gosh, so much stuff this past week, I'm going to tell you. I just don't want to adult right now. But I wanted to come on here and share. You're only out of alignment when you're contradicting your own truth, your own gnosis. And that might be a known or an unknown gnosis, because your heart and soul knows that sometimes the head hasn't wrapped itself around it because it's in its resistance to what is. Again, that's a misalignment with the mind and the body. The body always knows. That's your GPS. That's your truth teller. You want to know your truth? Test it in your heart and your body. Do kinesiology with yourself. It's the head that gets in the way. The heart will never lead you astray. The head's the one that tries to talk you out of things that you're like, oh, something feels off. Oh, no, don't think about that. Or that person doesn't align with me. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe. Oh, you shouldn't feel that way because you should think everybody's a good person. That's how the head gets in the way. How often does that happen to you? It's happened to me a lot of times. And that's how I've learned. I repeat the lesson enough times to where I go, I got it, no more. I don't need to repeat this. And lessons are opportunities. They're not, you know, like, oh, I'm being challenged, I'm being punished, whatever. Past life karma, I have to heal this because of past life. Why do we do that to ourselves? Can we just take life as experience? Can we stop trying to label it and make sense of it when maybe there is no sense? You know, I've been down the roads of past lives and, you know, all the gnosis and the knowledge and the things that I've carried over. But then there's that part where I'm like, but in this life, am I going to focus on what I am here to serve and do? Or am I going to keep on getting caught up in all the distractions that keep me from doing that? Because that's something I've been sitting with over these past couple months since making changes in my life that I realized, wow, this time I'm making the choice for me. I don't have to compromise myself, my heart, my soul to get along with people who aren't reciprocal or don't support me in the way that I also support them. Because there's a certain point when it becomes masochistic, right? Where we're self-flagellating, we're trying to fit in where we're meant to stand out. We all got to choose for ourselves. How much more are you going to place yourself in a toxic situation where you're allowing people to treat you less than what you were meant or what you would ever desire to treat another? Most of the times we treat others better than we treat ourselves. We don't usually give ourselves the credit that we deserve. We're more forgiving to people who don't always deserve it and sometimes have proven they don't, that have continued to show up and show themselves. But yet, because of a lot of our conditioning and our belief systems, we want to believe in the best of people. We want to, oh, maybe this one time they'll actually do something different than what I've seen them do 565 times already. There is a point where you actually have to learn to discern, unlearn the people pleasing. Be okay with being rejected. Because guess what? When someone rejects you or somebody shows themselves to you, that is actually also God speaking through them that it's okay for you to walk away. If they're going to treat you in a way that's less than desirable and doesn't reflect the way you treat them reciprocally, then it is time to walk away and stop denying yourself the truth that's right there for you, because it's an opportunity for you to choose you. When they don't choose you, it's up to you to choose you. Sometimes it's okay somebody doesn't like you. It doesn't always feel good, but you got to get good at feeling okay with that. I would rather know that someone doesn't like me and be able to choose not to engage and interact with that person than to turn around and keep on going and just fake the funk. That doesn't align with my heart and soul. It doesn't feel good. I don't like fake. I'm like, this is who I am. If you don't like me, I'm okay with that. And it actually makes my life a whole lot easier when I don't try to deny that in myself or for another. So, with that said, continuing, that you're only out of alignment when you're contradicting your truth, your inner gnosis. You're knowing on another level. Meaning you're labeling it as good or bad when it just is. Neutrality is alignment. It's not attaching your emotions to the situation. It's not seeing something as you want it versus as it is. Like, really accept it as it is. Don't try putting a story around it. Oh, well, they had to do this because of such and such. Stop putting up stories and stop defending others. Let them do that for themselves. And if someone doesn't like you, it's none of your business what they think of you anyway. True story, but it also frees you from the stress of, like, why should you care? Why should you care what other people think of you? It's up to you to think highly of yourself, to take care of yourself, because that's demonstrating to others and giving them permission in how they will treat you. If you don't set a certain bar for yourself, others will basically kick the bar stool out from underneath you, essentially. So that message obviously was meant for someone. I've been there and had that experience quite a bit. We're all literally going through something right now, and I'm just going to say, this entire week, I'm just like funkified, heavy energies. And I was reminded earlier in the week, oh, the solar flare activity. Oh, yes, I'm a sun sign. So, the sun hits me and it's like, And it literally will zap you. And people forget about the sun's interference with the electromagnetic fields. Physically, emotionally, mentally, like if you're feeling heavy, you haven't been sleeping, you feel dehydrated, you feel lethargic, you feel heavy, stuck, icky, achy, rageful, angry, picking fights, looking for things that are wrong, wanting to be right. Like this is also the Mars energy that we've had. You know, Mars was retrograde up until yesterday. And so now it's going direct, which means everybody who's been feeling held back is like, ah, rush to the finish. And it's like, slow down. If anything, over these past few years, we've been taught to slow down. So running out the gates when it's not time, take a deep breath, slow down, recount, recalibrate, recognize, am I doing it out of fear or out of love? What is my motivator? What's my driver? Usually it's something out of fear. If you are ready to jump, run through the gates, feel like you're being held back, what's the rush? Slow down, take a count, take a breath. Because that's coming from that space of fear. And usually that's lack. FOMO, fear of missing out. And fear is essentially what drives most people, because it's very rare you're ever going to see someone acting, reacting in the love space. Love is a flow. Love is like fluid. It is guided, and it's also very lucid and just feels right. It's in alignment. We're always either acting out of fear or out of love. And so when you recognize that, are you contracting or expanding? Because the love will feel like an expansion in your body. The fear that feels motivated to jump out of its skin is actually a contracted energy. See, this is why we tap into the body's wisdom. So when you go to do something, take a moment to take a deep breath and say, am I afraid of something? What do I feel can't wait? What is it in my body that feels tight? That I feel itchy, bitchy, achy, shaky, need to get it out. It's kind of like when you're having a conversation. This is a very simple explanation and an example. Have you ever noticed when you're having a conversation with somebody, how patient are you to listen to every word they say before you're ready to jump and say something else? Can you let them finish? Or are you afraid you're going to forget what you're going to say because it's already on your mind, that you're already formulating your response rather than hearing what's being said? Because you're already ready to jump on it, you're not fully present with that person. This is a humbling one. And we've all been guilty of doing this. I wouldn't know if I hadn't done it. So I speak from experience. And on both sides, I've been the person who got talked over, and I've been the one who talked over. So that's just a check-in. When you're with somebody, can you allow the person to speak? Can you actually hear them? Breathe. Be with them physically, emotionally, and mentally, as opposed to already formulating your response, which is futuristic, which means you're not present. Because a lot of times we'll find that when that's happening to us, it's usually because we're doing it to others. And there is no FOMO. You will get your turn, your time. So sometimes that's one of the drivers of wanting to talk is I'm afraid I'm going to forget. I'm afraid, blah, 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 whatever the story is, because they're all stories. They're all constructs in our mind of getting our needs met. So maybe in your childhood, you didn't get enough attention. You weren't heard. When you wanted to speak, nobody would listen. Like, these are really the drivers behind that kind of situation. And there's more to it because every one of us has had some experience around that, to where maybe we didn't feel seen or heard. And so we get excited around other people and we want to just spout off stuff and we want to be heard. And maybe you even sound like someone who's got Tourette's and you're just blah, blah. You're just spitting out all sorts of stuff. Maybe sharing too much information with people who don't even know you. All sorts of crazy stuff. These are just examples because I probably have done it. and various occasions. So again, it's just the check-in with ourselves. Why am I speaking? Is it going to be serving? Is it to be heard? Is it to be seen? To be recognized? Am I going to contribute? Like, there's so much you can check in and unpack with the way that you communicate. Because the words we speak cast spells. And so are we telling a story that we're reinforcing in ourselves? Could be our story that we claim to want to let go of, but yet we're still telling it. Or is it something to collaborate, to create, to support, to come together? There's just so many different reasons why we communicate. But did you know that 80% of what you say is for you to hear? So when you do speak, do you listen to what you say and how you say it? And do you notice if it comes from your heart, or does it come from your solar plexus, or where is it coming from in your body? Like, really tap into, when I speak, where is it coming from? Where do I feel it? And then even so, you can step behind that, and that before you speak, set an intention of how it will be received. Because when you're setting the intention, then you're also carrying the energy forward with what it is you are speaking. And then you can even add to that. You can add mudras. So when you touch certain fingertips, you can also reinforce the communication. The left hand is for receiving. The right hand is for giving. So if you're having a conversation and you want to be heard and you want to understand, you want to receive and give, the open communication, the dialogue between you and the other. Pinky fingers for Mercury, communication. You can sit there with your hands in your lap. Especially when you go into meetings with people, you want to have an open dialogue where maybe there's been some breakdowns in communication between you and another. That's one of the bonuses about the mindfulness around mudras, around intention, around being very selective with the words you choose. Noticing where in your body you're feeling it. Maybe you got butterflies. Can you breathe? Slow down. There's no rush to speak. Because when you slow down, ask more questions. When you slow down and you're more present, you have more power available to you. You have more energy, more life force. And people respect and appreciate someone who's coming from that slow, present, intentional space, rather than that frenetic, anxious, FOMO space. Communication is the majority of our life because we are in relationship with ourselves and the world. Everything is about relationship. That is one of the lessons I learned years ago when I first got involved with relationships. Oh, Date with Destiny, Anthony Robbins, my first event. And then also with the oneness spaces and the spiritual communities. And even if it didn't always feel that way, oh, yep, turquoise, blue around the neck, yes, around your rings. Again, depending on where you wear your rings. And also, you can do a pinky ring, a turquoise pinky ring, anything with the blue. Everything is about relationship. And the most important relationship we'll ever have is with ourselves. And so again, 80% of what you say is meant for you to hear. That's why it's meant to be slow and intentional. So when we slow ourselves down and then we feel into our bodies, we can really recognize, wow, I didn't realize, I spoke from that space. Like, really wanting to come from the heart is the most important space, because the heart and the lungs, the love, but also the life force comes from the lungs. And especially, if you want to come from a space of not exerting power, but from a confidence, a space of confidence from the solar plexus. You can wear yellow too. Depending on where you want it to come, you just align to the chakra that you want to communicate from. Pink, green, blue. If you want to have like a really deep, spiritual, intellectual, third eye, purple. Like, we can go on about so many different ways and modalities, but if you really tap into your body's wisdom, you'll learn more than anybody could ever teach you. So as I always started with in the beginning of this video, I was talking about how much information we can amass and we can hoard it, but it's worthless if we don't actually apply it and integrate it. It doesn't become wisdom until you embody it, which is why when I speak and do all of my workshops and my yoga teachings and whenever I work with people, I try to remind you that it's intention, but it always starts with the body. And the body is where the wisdom is. The body is the truth teller. This temple is your vehicle, but it's the biggest tool. It's the gift. It's the one thing people overlook most of the times. You seek out medical providers to tell you about your body, when in reality, you live with it 24/7. You need to know thyself inside and out, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And when you harness this, you tap into your body's wisdom, there's no outsourcing, because you should be insourcing. It's called inner standing for a reason. It is the mind, body, soul, spirit, is the breath connection, which is why I say, slow down by breathing to bring you into the moment, to make you aware of the mind. Because when you understand your mind and your patterns, your unconscious and your conscious programming, then you can also repattern. You can become a disruptor of generational 7 back, 7 forward. You disrupt the patterns, the legacies, by changing your behavior, by changing your story, so that you can master your life and master your domain. So a lot of us, if you're on this video, most likely you're coming from a family where you're like, yep, I am changing some things in my family just through me. Because you know the importance of change, of like really harnessing this life. We're not here to get all freaked out about what's going on out there, because guess what? That's all a reflection of what's going on within us. And there's this part of me that ever since I was a little girl, I've known that this is the gnosis. I can't speak for everyone else. I can only speak from that young self, my own personal younger version of myself, that despite going to Catholic schools up until 4th grade, I had a very deep connection with Source. That, okay, I read teachings, I went to religious classes, and I would be the one who would question and say, but it says that God didn't want you to worship in 4 walls. Like, that baffled my mind. And I'm like, I personally always saw it as a connection in everything around me, in nature, that I had that connection. So I never forget that. And that I know God is in all the details. And that there's just something in me that knows, that I can't put to words. And I trust it. I didn't trust it all of my life, because there were so many layers of conditions and influences outside of me. And, you know, it's the adapt to life, and you have to do this, and you should do that, and, you know, all those sayings that start to get programmed. But I remember feeling like this was a game, similar to a rat in a maze. Some call it a labyrinth, right? That essentially we came in with the purity of knowing when we were little ones. Our connection was severed through the teachings of Jesuits and such, you know, give me a child until the age of 6 or 7 and we will show you the man. They knew. And so it was all about wiping that out. So some of the discussions that were on a bunch of different podcasts I've been listening to for the past couple days have been around this prison planet, slave system, it's a trap, the mind wiping. H.W. Mikowski had a really good video today, and I really appreciated most of what he said, because I don't personally believe we're in a soul trap. I do know some things from what a friend and I a couple years ago were talking about. We did a San Pedro ceremony, and he said that a craft came over him, and they basically, and we had just had the most amazing conversation about how we didn't see anything to do with, you know, other beings from other planets kind of deal. And he's like, all my life, never seen or experienced anything. In this particular session, this craft came in, and he basically explained to me, they brought him up and said, we'll make a deal with you. We'll give you whatever you want, but we need souls. And that they had perfected what they believed was the best race, and they still needed souls to inhabit them. And I said, that's funny, because that's actually something that's kind of been posited in my mind. And I said, you know, it's funny you're coming up with that. That makes so much sense. And that's exactly what goes and rings true with the whole selling your soul to the devil kind of theory, and how contracts are made, but people don't understand the fine print. Like, they just so desperately want something in return. They're willing to, see, this is what happens, is when you're desperate, desperation turns into desperate times. And so when you're in an emotional state and you want something so bad, you're willing to compromise for your safety, security, or meeting your needs, whatever those may be. And a lot of times that's what happens, is because so many adults are living out their adulthood with their unmet childhood needs as the driver. So that child is running around going, I need attention. I need this. And they don't even recognize it, because it's so deeply unconscious in them. It's just the patterns, and because habits or routines, they can't understand why they keep experiencing the same relationships. But so they're willing, because that need is so prevalent in them, to sell themselves short and compromise themselves, as well as their soul and their own integrity and their authenticity. So it's very important. The more emotional you are, the more irrational you are, the more willing you are to give up your soul, essentially. And we make the worst choices when we're emotional and irrational. So that's why it's very important to know, where are you coming from? Are you coming from the space of desperation, that space of fear, lack, FOMO? I'm afraid of this. If I don't do this, this will happen. It's all a story. It is the projection. We're not afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of the past repeating itself in the future. So it's a projection. So the only thing that really holds us back from doing things is our idea that we're going to repeat something based on the past. Because otherwise, we could just as easily focus on the worst case outcome that could occur, versus always reliving the past stories, which I know a lot of us do, myself included. You know, especially when you are getting ready to make some major changes in your life, that's when you're going to find the most resistance. That's when you're going to feel the heaviest. That's when you're going to feel like, I don't want to. You're going to throw your adult temper tantrum. You know what I mean? Like, your inner child's going to be stomping with the arms crossed. I'm not gonna. I don't wanna. Anybody else been experiencing that? Because that's another thing about these energies right now. All this past week, I'm one of them. Not so happy. Don't want to get out of bed. I just curl up in my nice, comfortable bed and stay here all day. There's nothing wrong with it. And in fact, it's really important that you are aware of it. Because when you're aware of that, that gives you an opportunity to also have compassion for it. So let's say you're not feeling your best. Let's say you don't want to get out of bed. Can you give yourself grace instead of shame and guilt around why you shouldn't feel that way? Because if anything, it's like, oh, heavy solar flares. I'm feeling a little drained, a little exhausted, a little bit dehydrated. My physical body feels achy and shaky and breaky. What else is coming up? Can you write that down in a journal? Can you just cathartically just let it out? Because when we do that, again, pen to paper, actually transfers it out of your system. That's one way. That's why it's called cathartic healing, and why journaling is important just as much as meditation, which meditation I call mental flossing. But essentially, when you take pen to paper, you're transferring it out of your body. Right-handed, you're giving it. Left-handed, you can also be receiving. You know, this is actually a technique, depending on your lefty or righty or ambidextrous. You can do this. It doesn't really matter. But if your intention is to get rid of it, use your right hand. If you want to receive a message, you can write with your left hand. Even if it's not perfect, you can still manage. You can still intentional and also visualize yourself doing it. So that's just one technique, one of many things up my sleeves. I'm not wearing any sleeves. It's all out here to show. So anyway, it's natural for the human to seek. Exactly. Inner child writing with your non-dominant hand. I actually started out as a lefty, and then I broke my wrist. And I am a little ambidextrous anyway. I'm an ambi girl. So, another thing. And I've noticed it's very prevalent because of the craziness that is going on in the world. And I'm just going to suggest, as I was saying in the beginning, a lot of times we're seeking. We're collecting information. Very rarely do people actually run it through their truth filter, which is their body. Like really, like, does this ring true to me? Does this feel authentic? Does this feel aligned in my body? We need to be much more discerning this year. That was the message I got before the new year, is that there are going to be times that you're going to get literally the rug pulled out from underneath you because you decided to trust in something that wasn't coming from your inner guidance, that you're allowing to come up into here. The reason I'm sharing this message is because I got this message before Thanksgiving, and it was powerful. It was about trust and unlearning the need to seek outside, but also to learn to discern truth in yourself. Because there are going to be a whole lot of, what do they call them? When someone shows up, wolves in sheep's clothing. Essentially, you got to learn to trust yourself. And that's why I always go back to, you need to literally decode yourself, decipher, unlock your codes, hang with people who can be very forthright and honest with you, and be willing to receive that reflective sharing. Because this is important, that we also commune with people who support us in our growth, and we support them, and that you ask for feedback. Be open to receiving reflective feedback. Like, do you feel like I'm authentic? Do you see any places where I need to improve? You know, like, sometimes that's a good thing to have with some close friends. You know, do you feel like, what are my strengths? How about that one? You know, it's very nice when you have someone actually share back with you, like, what is it do you feel that is one of my strengths? What is something that stands out to you about me? Oh, and if you know anything about me, I'd love to hear, because I love feedback like that. I really need to do that more, because I rarely ever ask, and I need to. I mean, I could sit down and write what I think I offer or that I do, but you know what? It's more prevalent and prominent when someone else notices it in you too. Because then it's a reinforcement of, like, if this is something I feel is my strength, maybe it isn't. Maybe somebody sees something that I think is a weakness is really a strength to them. That's really beautiful when you can receive that. So knowing thyself well is really, really crucial this year and going forward. If you haven't been doing the healing work and you haven't been actually owning your stuff, your shadow, like, the only way to be whole is to own it all. Not denying any part of yourself, even the fear. Like, the fear is not bad. Fear is just showing you where you need to courage up, where you just need to, like, build a little confidence. Fear is just a messenger. Just like emotions, they're all messengers. They're all guidance. So don't try to, like, say, I need to, I have to obliterate my ego. Your ego It was funny because 𝐔𝐿𝐴, he would say, your amigo. Your ego is not your amigo. I thought that was cute. He had some really cute stuff. I hope he's doing well. Your ego, you're meant to master your mind. Yes, allowing is big for a lot of people who are givers. Allowing is one that I've been working on for a long time myself. But truly the trust, because you have to be able to trust and know that you feel safe allowing from certain people as well. So again, even if you're in the allowing space and you feel the need to, I need to open up to more allowing, you also have to learn to trust yourself in knowing where to allow, who to allow. Who are you going to invite into your life, into your space, into your sacred circle? Like, that takes trusting yourself. It's not about the other person. It's always about you. Like, really tapping into the body's wisdom again. Does this align? Does it feel true to me? You know, we get excited when we meet people and there's a little click here and there. You know, we get the little sparks and, you know, the frequent keys are unlocking and, oh, this person brought this up in me and, ooh, they remind me of so-and-so and they remind me of this person. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I just invited an old wound back. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, when these little things happen, they'll trip you up because then you'll start to go into the shame blame game within your internal dialogue. That's what happens, right? We bring someone in, we're all excited. Oh, this person, they're bringing up all the goodies in me, right? And then the next thing you know, you're like, oh, shiz. They just brought up the bad stuff that I was trying to avoid. Well, probably because you were trying to avoid it anyway. Like, really catch that. Because we attract where we're at. So even if we're trying to avoid someone or something or some experience, we're actually attracting that to us. And it will play out so that you can get it out. Just an opportunity, nothing wrong with it. But don't go into the, I should have known better, you know, I should have trusted my instinct. Like, that is like the default for the human who has been programmed. And so we want to get out of the default. We want to go back into the compassion space of, oh, been there, done that. Okay. Lesson accepted. Challenge overcome. Because we want to be more gentle with ourselves. If you want grace in your life, you also have to approach things with more grace, more ease, soften, slow down. Where you might go on the attack and the offense, defense, take a deep breath and lighten up, step back. Because when you're changing up the way you respond or react, usually we're reacting, go over to the respond space. Karma isn't the, you know, what you do to another, you get back and all this. No, karma is, are you going to change the patterns? Because when you repeat something over and over again, the habitual patterns are your karma. Until you recognize the pattern needs to be disrupted, that's when you break the karma, when you disrupt the old pattern. And that's what we really need to be doing. Okay, you see it, you overcome it. You learn from it. Now you're integrating it. That's when it becomes the wisdom. So yeah, you can know it, but do you gnosis know it? Do you know it in your body, your being? Have you embodied the teachings, the lessons? Or are you still playing them out in your life, trying to figure out, why does this keep happening to me? Because it's still happening because you haven't embodied it. And it has not become your wisdom yet. So whatever lessons, whatever you're feeling and is being revealing and it is your healing. Just in the revealing of it, just in the feeling of it, the acknowledgement of it, the revealing of it, that is the healing of it. The intentionality of, oh, I'm willing to feel whatever is coming up in this moment, is what is healing. Embodiment. Not the denying or suppressing or the running or the trying to obliterate or whatever it is you're trying to cut cords and all this stuff. Stop. Can you just be present with it and be compassionate? Because whatever is coming up, it wants love too. And when we reject these aspects of ourselves, the pain, the struggle, all that stuff is what's holding you back. That's what creates the cycle, the loop. That is what continues the karma. The constant struggle and strife. We create our own suffering. What we resist persists. And when that's persisting, it's because we're not getting it. So much out there. Like I've talked about the whole cord cutting thing. It's like that's a form of attack. It's not ahimsa, which is self-harm, not doing harm. Anytime we cut something, we are severing, we are harming it. So you want to release it, but you want to allow it first because it came up because you haven't allowed it in the past. When we have a trauma that wasn't fully felt, it lingers, it festers. And so when we come into the space of, oh, it's coming up, can I just sit with it and be okay with sitting with it? It might not feel so good, but the sooner you sit with it, the less it'll linger and it won't fester because it's already festered up to that point anyway. Like, why are you still carrying it at this point? Because you held on to it. Even if you thought you were trying to suppress it, that's a form of holding on to it. You stuck it in a bag, in one of your hidden shadows. And it feels heavy for that reason. You don't lighten up, you don't feel liberated until you actually allow the energy to move through you. So that's the feel it to heal it. That's like the whole, and there's more to it. There's a workshop that I had put together years ago when I first did my first Kundalini yoga teacher training in 2013. And that was the message I got that year. Well, actually in 2012. The message I got was, you're meant to be here, fully present in your body. You're not here to play the escape game. We incarnated, our souls are inhabiting these bodies for a reason. And we're here for the 5 senses. Think about that. We're taking it all in, we're absorbing it. But are we really taking it in? Because our conditionings, our pains, our traumas are what are getting in the way. But you have to be willing to feel it. Otherwise, it's still there. You can deny it. And then we chase for the feeling. So the stuff we try to numb out numbs the other areas of our body and our being, our experiences. When you numb the pain, you numb the joy. And that's what addiction is chasing the high because you've numbed it out. When you're numbed out, you can't feel. So you seek out external things to stimulate you. That's just the baseline of addiction. What if? Because so many of the conversations that I'm hearing, everybody, I think because the energies, and you can all give me feedback on this is my sense. And I guess it also agitates me because I realize, even I know, whatever answers I'm seeking, they're within me. And that ultimately what I'm seeking is me. That's all the messages I've received over these years. That we're always chasing and researching and seeking information, knowledge, as if it doesn't reside within us, like somebody's going to tell us. And so we want to listen to this one and we want to listen to that one. Now, I have no problem because I like that certain sound bites will click with me and that every single person has something to contribute. And then there's my contribution as well. Like, this is a collective collaboration. There is not one person out there who has the whole picture of what is going on or what is going to happen. Not one person. Which is why it's so important to not put your eggs all in one basket or to not just blindly follow one person or one theory. Be open to all of it. And I suggest this from the space of, again, it's trust. You got to feel it in your body, not be caught up in your head. And there, for many people, this is a huge discernment, and sometimes it's challenging to tell the difference. Because if you're not in touch with your body, it's easy for the head to be the one running the show. And so this is everybody's journey right now, is seeking information. but how much are you seeking within rather than going without? And so the energies are kind of motivating people because everybody wants to know what's going on and what's going to happen, and like feel like you're standing by to see what's going to happen. You know, yesterday we had the planes and the whole airline shuffle thing going on, and I just kind of tuned out. I knew about it, but not everybody's going to be affected by what's going out on the main stage. But what if life was really about feeding your own soul instead of feeding the dramas that are being played out that are there to suck it out of you, literally suck the soul out of you? Because this has been my message for the past several years, that it's all distraction. And I know nobody really wants to hear that. People want to say, but all this evil in the world, and put their focus fully on all the chunks of negativity. Those are small aspects. They really are. They're just magnified. And so when you put a bunch of people's attention on that, you can magnify that even more. And it grows and it feeds it. And I know it's challenging because even the most healed person, oh, I've found enlightenment, I'm healed, I've done all my work. If you have, please let me know, like, show me. Not one of us out here has got our shit together fully here. And I'm the first to tell you, because I know my shit my shit stinks too. Come on, people. Ain't all roses. I know that if there's some stuff I'm seeing out there that's negative, it's because it's still in me. Whatever stands out on the world stage to me, it's my shit too. So if it is standing out for you, I implement things. Here's an exercise. Write a list of all the things that agitate you. Write what you see going on outside of you, that upset you, that trigger you, that piss you off. Really get under your skin. And then look at your life. This is humbling. If you're willing to do this, because this is not like, I'm just going to say, be ready, have your tissues, have a punching bag, have a bat and some pillows. You might want to get out some anger and aggression on this one, because that's usually the only way we're going to get the shit out of us is if we move it out of our bodies. That's why I say movement is medicine. You need to like get that out of your system, because whatever is triggering you is your work to do. It's a fact. You may not want to own it. You may want to do the pointing of the finger. Remember what I just said. If you're pointing a finger out, you got 3 pointing back. You wouldn't know it if it didn't reside in you. Another way to say it, you spot it, you got it. That one, it's a killjoy and it's a humbler. But it's humble pie that some people need to take a bite of. And the reason I say that is this. I hear the anger come out of people that say, but this is going on out in the world stage. This is totally impossible. We are dark. We got a little angel, we got a little devil in us. Until you own both sides, it will own you. And that will be what you see through. Meaning the filters, the glasses that you see through will be all your shit right back at you. Because that's what happens. And I know this because of how I've had to work through my own life. That the stuff that I hadn't quite yet owned in myself was showing up to me constantly, and it still does. Naivete, as well as the manipulative, like the devil and the angel. And the angel too, I mean, come on. There's manipulation that comes from all sides. The acting like it's not yours, but it is. I know the reason behind why most people don't want to own it. It's because it means taking personal responsibility for your own stuff. It means being accountable. But if you don't own that sooner, it will be pulled out from underneath you. And it's better for you to own it than someone to call it out. Because I know for me, that's actually kind of happened in my life, where I didn't want to leave my last job when I was still. And I was literally trying to stay under the radar, just going along to get along, trying to have the blinders on and act like nothing was wrong. My physical body was breaking down. I had cervical spine issues. I should have been on disability. And I was attracting the attacking because I wasn't addressing my own internal struggles, my own self-worth issues, my own physical symptoms. Like, I wasn't taking care of my body. And so I was attracting these me, because when you don't take care of you, others will attack you on top of that because of the weakness. Like, it's a really sick system, but that's the toxicity of it. That if you're in a toxic space, when it's like when you're down, they kick you even harder. It's because they feel threatened by you and the way that you're calling things out, but you're not doing it in a way that also empowers you. It's the victimhood versus the perpetrator situation, which is what I was apparently going through, and I didn't see all of it at the time. The idea that I was speaking up for everybody, but nobody was speaking up for me. Nobody was coming in that unity space. Like, it was me talking about what was unhealthy in the work environment and everybody else afraid for themselves, everybody out for themselves. And I was actually speaking out for everyone. I will never stop being who I am. But over the course of the course of my life, I have learned better communication styles and the need for people to gather in unity better. In that space, those weren't strong individuals. Those were weak people too. And I was weak at the time as well. So unfortunately, some people don't understand humans in unity, community, strength in numbers. Like, even when I was a runner, even in our running group, when we would cross the road in Italy, especially Naples, I said, safety in numbers, everybody huddle. The closer you are together, then you make eye contact with the drivers, and they're not going to hit you because you got witnesses. It's things like that. Like, this is where we're at in the world. Until people recognize that we're more powerful in a collective than we are by one person. Like, stop looking for one person to stand up and speak what you're unwilling to do. If anything, it has to be collective. It has to be groups, people coming together, whatever it is, whether you want to start a new community, you want to do, whatever it is you want to do. This is the year of finding yourself, but also recognizing that you can't do everything on your own. So you got to find the confidence and the strength in yourself, the trustworthiness of yourself, knowing yourself so well, know thyself so well that you can trust yourself to choose and also discern in others who you're meant to serve and who you're meant to work with, because that's where this is where we're at right now. Even with the unpredictability of all the craziness going on around us, can we just have our experiences and be guided, as opposed to these fear spaces? Like, I see a lot of fear mongering. I see a lot of, It's like, It's not airy-fairy to be discerning. But also, it's not airy-fairy to say it's all love and light. Like, I'm not that person. I'm not that kind of angel, okay? I see things as they are, but I don't attach or label them as my old conditioning would have me do. Does that make sense? The old conditioning would have you choose this or that, which is the trap. The middle way, neutrality, is the way. The old way would have you choosing and labeling, that's good, that's bad. I have to choose the right way according to that conditioning, because what is the right way? What is good? What is bad? It's all part of the conditioning. It's all the BS that we were taught as a foundation in this life. And I love to listen to people's perspectives. I love to listen to open-mindedness and all these wonderful theories. I really do, because I have an open mind. I'm open, but I'm not going to also just, okay, that's what I believe, and just sit back and wait. That's not life. That's not living. Talking about problems is just contributing to problems. Collaborating, creating, being in good company. Like, that is solution. And I believe that's where we need to be focused more. Because I think that's the energy I've been feeling this week as I've been speaking this out, is this anxiety, this heaviness that's on the planet of anticipation for what's next. What's going to happen? But if you're sitting on the edge of your seat, is that serving your life? Is that helping you grow? Do you feel satisfied in that? Do you feel elated, expansive, in joy? Or do you feel stuck, stagnant, anxious, upset? You got something to about. It's really a period of deep reflection now. We've been, kind of on the, what is it, since October? This whole Mars retrograde started and everybody's held back. It's not that the energies were holding you back. It's that the planets and the astrology just tells you the energy of us. I think we need to look at things a lot different and stop thinking things affect us as much as it's a reflection of us. That we disempower ourselves by thinking, oh, Mercury retrograde, it messes with my this, that, and the other. No, it's an influence. It's an influence that you can work with, you can dance with. Fluid energy, energy in motion. Astrology is essentially the mapping of the sky as a reflection of our, how much more empowering that can be. The astrology forecast, what do? You prepare for it. You're forearmed, you're forewarned. You can dress for it, you can prepare for it. Not just, oh, can't do anything because it's Mercury retrograde, Mars is retrograde too, and oh my gosh, this is happening, I can't do anything. I think all that old stuff needs to be debunked. Yeah. This is where trust in thyself is important. You have to be able to trust yourself to make choices without constantly seeking advice or guidance from others. Because if you can't know yourself and trust yourself, then you'll be at the beck and call, the whim of others. And we all want to be that sovereign being. We all want to be free and liberated. That's the first way and the most important way that you're going to liberate yourself, is being able to know thyself and trust thyself to make a choice. And it doesn't have to be the perfect choice, and it doesn't have to be okay. You can make a mistake. But remember what I said about mistakes? There are none. One mistake leads to making another choice. There are no mistakes, they're all just choices. So if you make a choice that doesn't work out, voila! The choice. Choices made. Yay! We're all happy people. Have I talked enough? So this is my download for the day because I wasn't feeling like adulting. Today I was just like, I started out, I wanted to go to the earlier class at the gym, and then I ended up going to the 9 o'clock class. And essentially was like, it's dragging ass. Actually, all week I've been kind of up and down. I've been literally on the roller coaster of like, holy crap, what the heck? And then I've also been like, okay. I've had my moments when we're like, ah, and all I did was go out and take a walk because movement is medicine. And when I get out in nature, nature nurtures me and reminds me that's where I need to be. It's beauty in motion. It's like, oh, this is what I meant to do, is get out and I get to see my sunsets and move my body and walk. And it feels so good to breathe. Not worried about the chemtrails and worried about this and worried about that, because guess what? You feed the fear feeds you. True story. I mean, we're going to get to a point where we're going to start to, you know, like if you haven't been down the rabbit hole, like I've been down this rabbit hole for too long, way too long, like most of my life. Yeah. When it boils down to it, I was watching the Tree of Knowledge, and I love her voice. She's so funny when she laughs. She's adorable. And she was talking about the water looked like it was raining, and it wasn't raining outside. And here's my epiphany watching this, and not epiphany, but my reality and where I've been for a while, is that it's like the split experiment. If you don't know about that, look it up. But essentially in the split experiment, it's just like, you know, the conversation around if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a noise? Well, if nobody's around to hear it, then you're not going to hear the noise. So does the noise actually exist? You wouldn't know. Because by observation, you affect the outcome of what occurs. And in fact, you influence it. That's what the split experiment was about. How you influence. And it was where the balls were going through the splits in the frame. And so think about that. That's where we're at right now. It's, are you going to be part of the influence that manifests and creates our reality? I mean, this has already been happening. They know this. It's been revealed. Like there isn't anything they're not talking about and telling you out in the world stage that you couldn't just go, oh, how bizarre that they're actually revealing it and nobody's picking up on it. Or are you? And it's not something that's new. It's actually something that's been out in the works for a very long time. Harnessing the energy of the human. The Bible's the perfect example. Religious or not, the most read books are religious texts. And what do people like to do? They love to regurgitate, to show their knowledge. See, I know, I read the Bible. Or are you part of the manifestation of those prophecies, those stories, the biblical, you know, revelations and end of times, or like even Nostradamus and all of that? You know, Edgar Cayce. But I started where how much of that stuff was really meant to influence us to manifest it into reality. Sit with that. Let me know in the comments. Does that make you question it? Because it does me. And I say that because we are powerful and we are master manifestors. And we are the architects of this reality, whether you want to take that responsibility and own that or not. We are all aspects of God, which means we have source energy in us, and that where attention goes, energy flows, which means we feed and create through our energy. Again, if you've seen my videos, our thoughts are the currency of our reality. We are literally bankers, and we are literally paying for our experiences through the focused energy and attention of our thoughts. So if you're still telling an old story, you're still fixated on something you don't like and wondering why it's still playing out in your life, it's because you're feeding it and you're actually paying for it. Where attention goes, energy flows. That's your currency because you're feeding the frequency. And so really sit with that one, because until we all wake up to our power, we're giving it away. So we can sit and we can read all these beautiful texts and all these books and all these prophetic things, but ultimately it's still up to us whether we're going to feed the fear or the fear is going to feed us. And in whichever direction that goes, fear is a liar. And that's basing it off of your emotions. They feed off of your emotions. The lower you are on the emotional scale, the bad. I have a very bad connection. Ooh. Okay. So much love from my heart to yours. I hope this resonates with you. Feed yourself with uplifting, supportive, vibes of whatever it is you want to manifest in this life. There's too much out there that's being over amplified, and there's a whole lot of good going on in the world. Seek what it is you desire. Seek and you shall find. Remember that? Seek and you shall find. So where attention goes, energy flows. If you are focused on what you don't want, the universe only hears what it is, and it doesn't hear the don't, because it's attention. And that is the currency. So just remember, this is a period of getting to know thyself really strongly and well. And compassion. Like, if you don't feel like adulting like I have, just relax, chill out. It's okay. It'll get done. So the anxiety I've been feeling all this week, as I was saying, is that there are a lot of people who are very unsettled and they're seeking answers, but they're not finding them inside. So when the energy is heavy and scattered like it has been, it's because people aren't going within. They're going out, acting out, reacting, fighting, looking for conflict because they're looking for a stimulant. This is the addictive nature of trauma. Trauma response is reaction. That's what the energy you've been feeling has been. Is the, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get a hold of things. So I'm just going to try to seek out something that stimulates me. Or, you know, as we say, stings me back to consciousness, though usually it's done unconsciously. This is when you see a lot of drinking, you see a lot of overdosing, drugs, all sorts of escapes. Maybe even escapes from this reality. If anything, you need your own compassion and smile at other people. Smile. Smile, because it's an invitation for the other person to smile too. And when you smile with your lips, smile from your heart. Just like I said, intentionality. Notice in your body where you feel it, because feeling is your guidance system. We got to learn to embody more. That's where your wisdom center lies, is in the body. Again, okay, bad connection. It's time for me to sign out. Universe is speaking. I love you all. I hope you just stay calm, slow down, breathe, reflect, write, listen, receive, allow. Go within, learn to trust. This is the key to unlocking your codes. All right, from my heart to yours, have a wonderful evening. Sweet dreams. I love you.